At 6:42 on a Saturday evening, my ex-husband raised a champagne glass and placed one hand over his new bride's stomach. The string quartet stopped playing. 200 guests turned toward them. And Marcus smiled in a way I had not seen during the final 10 years of our marriage. "We've been keeping one more surprise," he announced. "Sienna and I are expecting a baby." The ballroom erupted in applause. Beside me, our daughter Ava went completely still. Marcus looked across the room and found her face. For one second, I thought he might acknowledge the 20-year-old girl we had adopted and raised together. Instead, he lifted his glass higher. "At last," he said, "I'm going to be a father." Ava's fingers tightened around mine. She did not cry. That somehow made it worse. Then a gray-haired man near the back of the ballroom slowly stood from his chair. He stared at Marcus. The color drained from his face. And in the sudden silence, the man asked, "You never told her?" Marcus lowered his champagne glass. "Sit down, Noah." The man did not move. Sienna's smile weakened. "Told me what?" Marcus looked toward the band. "Keep playing." No one moved. Noah Blake had been Marcus's closest friend in college. I had met him only twice during our 22-year marriage because the friendship had ended abruptly years earlier. Marcus always said Noah had become jealous of his success. That evening, Noah looked less jealous than horrified. He stared at Sienna's stomach. Then at Marcus. "You stood there and let her announce this in front of everyone?" Marcus crossed the dance floor. His voice dropped. "This is not your concern." Noah shook his head. "It became my concern when you invited me here and made me listen to that lie." Sienna stepped down from the small stage. "What lie?" Marcus reached for her hand. "Noah has been drinking." "I haven't touched my glass," Noah said. The room became so quiet that I could hear the candles crackling inside the glass centerpieces. Noah looked at Sienna. "I'm sorry. I assumed you knew." "Knew what?" Marcus grabbed Noah's arm. "Enough." Noah pulled free. Then he said the words that changed the wedding, my divorce, and every painful year that had come before it. "Marcus had a vasectomy 11 years ago." Sienna laughed once. It was not a happy sound. "That's impossible." Noah's eyes remained on Marcus. "I drove him to the clinic." Someone near the front dropped a fork. Sienna looked at her new husband. "Tell him he's lying." Marcus did not answer. Noah continued. "He tried to reverse it 7 months ago. The procedure failed." Sienna's face changed. The joy disappeared first. Then the confusion. Then the fear. She looked down at her stomach as though it belonged to someone else. Marcus finally spoke. "The doctor said conception was still possible." "No," Noah replied. "You called me after the final test. You said there were no viable sperm." Sienna stepped backward. "You told me Claire couldn't have children." Every face in the room turned toward me. "My name is Claire Monroe. I was 42 years old and I had not wanted to attend my ex-husband's wedding. I came because Ava asked me. She had been 2 years old when Marcus and I adopted her. The first time I held her, she reached for the necklace around my throat and refused to let go. Marcus cried that day. Real tears. He promised Ava would never feel unwanted again. For years he kept that promise. Then something inside him changed. Or perhaps success simply gave him permission to become the man he had always hidden. By the time Ava turned 16, Marcus had begun talking about legacy. Bloodlines. The family name. He stopped introducing Ava as our daughter and started calling her the child we adopted. I corrected him every time. He accused me of being overly sensitive. Then he began blaming me for the biological children we never had. "We wasted too much time," he once told me. I had spent 5 years undergoing tests, injections and procedures because Marcus said becoming a father was his greatest dream. Doctors called our case unexplained infertility. Marcus held my hand in waiting rooms. He kissed my forehead after failed treatments. Then when I cried, he told me my stress was making the problem worse. I believed my body had betrayed us. Marcus allowed me to believe it. At the wedding, Sienna stared at him. "You said your ex-wife was infertile." Marcus glanced at me. "This has nothing to do with Claire." "It has everything to do with her," Noah said. Marcus's new father-in-law, Owen Ward, rose from the head table. He was a 63-year-old hotel developer who had invested millions in Marcus's newest company. "Marcus," Owen said, "answer my daughter." Marcus forced a smile. I had a procedure years ago. I was young. The reversal gave us a chance. Noah shook his head. You told me it failed. That was preliminary. I saw the final report. Marcus looked as if someone had struck him. Noah reached inside his jacket and removed his phone. You sent it to me because you were afraid the clinic had made a mistake. Sienna's voice trembled. When did you have the original procedure? Marcus did not answer. Noah did. 3 months before he and Claire began fertility treatment. Ava's hand slipped out of mine. She looked at her father. You knew. Marcus turned toward her. Ava, this is adult business. Her face crumpled. I was your daughter. You are my daughter. You just announced that you were finally becoming a father. Marcus opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Sienna looked at me. Did you know? No. My answer came out quieter than I expected. I had imagined discovering the truth would feel like anger. Instead, I felt the same pain I had felt in fertility clinics, only now it had a name. Deception. Marcus had watched me blame myself for years. He had watched me change diets, inject hormones, undergo surgery, and apologize for failing him. All while knowing exactly why we never conceived. Sienna turned back to him. Is the baby yours? A nervous movement passed through the room. Marcus stepped closer to her. Of course it is. Noah looked down. Sienna noticed. What else do you know? Noah knows nothing, Marcus snapped. Noah's expression hardened. I know you offered me $50,000 not to attend. Sienna stared at Marcus. Marcus's face went pale again. Owen moved between them. You paid this man to stay away? I tried to protect the wedding from an unstable former friend. Noah unlocked his phone. The payment came from North Crest Development. Owen's company. His investment. Marcus glanced toward the doors. 2 men in dark suits were already standing there. They were not security guards. I recognized one of them. Owen's corporate attorney. That was when I understood something important. Noah's revelation had shocked Owen. But it had not surprised him completely. He looked at me across the ballroom. Then he gave the smallest nod. 3 days earlier, Owen Ward had asked to meet me privately. I had not told Marcus. I had not told Sienna. I had barely told Rachel, my attorney, before walking into Owen's office. He placed a copy of a loan guarantee in front of me. My signature appeared on the final page. I had never signed it. Marcus had used my name to guarantee $8 million connected to North Crest Development. The collateral listed intellectual property owned by the design company Marcus and I had founded during our marriage. The problem was that those rights had not gone to Marcus in the divorce. They belonged to the Monroe Family Trust. My father created the trust before Marcus joined the company. Marcus knew that. He had spent years trying to convince me to dissolve it. When I refused, he forged my authorization. Owen had discovered the ownership problem during a routine audit. He asked whether I wanted to confront Marcus before the wedding. I said no. Not because I wanted him to marry Sienna. Not because I wanted revenge. I said no because Owen did not yet know how deep the fraud went. Neither did I. Rachel and I had spent the next 72 hours tracing transfers, shell companies, and contracts. Marcus had not merely pledged property he did not own. He had used Owen's money to pay off old company debts, fund the wedding, and purchase a 12-bedroom estate he called a marital gift for Sienna. The estate was mortgaged twice. One lender believed Marcus owned the land. Another believed North Crest owned it. Neither knew the land was under an unresolved environmental claim. Marcus had built his new life the same way he built our marriage. On promises that could not survive inspection. At the wedding, Owen's attorney approached the head table. Mr. Hale, we need to speak privately. Marcus pointed toward Noah. Remove him first. No one is being removed, Owen said. Sienna tore off her veil. Is the baby yours? Marcus reached for her. She stepped back. Do not touch me. He looked around the ballroom. Every guest was watching. Every phone was recording. Marcus had spent nearly $500,000 creating a perfect wedding. Now he stood at the center of it with no control over the story. He turned toward me. This is your doing. I almost laughed. You invited Noah. You contacted him. I didn't know he would be here. That was true. Noah looked at me. I received an invitation directly from Marcus. Marcus's jaw tightened. Noah continued. He wanted me to see what he had achieved. There was Pride had brought the truth into the room. Marcus had invited the one person who knew his oldest secret because he believed wealth had made him untouchable. Owen addressed the guests. The receptionist paused. Sienna looked at him. Dad. You need legal advice before signing anything else. Marcus stared at Owen. The ceremony is complete. The marriage license has not been filed, Owen's attorney said. Marcus's eyes shifted toward the small table beside the stage. The unsigned license rested beneath a gold pen. The ceremony had been symbolic. They planned to sign the legal documents during a private family toast. Sienna followed his gaze. You insisted we wait until after the reception. Marcus said nothing. Owen's attorney placed a sealed folder on the table. We also have questions about the prenuptial agreement. Sienna's face turned white. What questions? The attorney looked at Marcus. The version you signed is not the version presented to Ms. Ward. A murmur spread through the room. Marcus had prepared 2 prenuptial agreements. In Sienna's copy their assets remained separate. In his copy, North Crest received management authority over several Ward family properties after the birth of a child. The clause had been placed inside an appendix Sienna had never seen. Marcus had planned to use the pregnancy to access her family's company, just as he had used my supposed infertility to control me. The bride looked at him as though she were finally seeing the man beneath the tuxedo. You were marrying my father's money. No. You lied about the baby. No. You lied about Claire. That marriage was already dead. I stepped forward. No, Marcus. He looked at me. You did not leave because our marriage was dead. I held his gaze. You spent years killing it. He turned away. Then Sienna said, I want a paternity test. Marcus's shoulders stiffened. The room erupted again. He whispered something to her. She slapped him. The sound echoed through the ballroom. Then she removed her wedding ring and placed it beside the unsigned marriage license. The celebration ended at 7:11. 29 minutes after Marcus announced that he was finally becoming a father. But the wedding secret was only the beginning. Because as the guests started leaving, Noah approached me with a small brown envelope. Claire, there's something else you need to know. I looked at him. What? He glanced toward Ava. This isn't only about the vasectomy. He handed me the envelope. Inside was a photograph of Marcus holding a baby. The picture was dated 23 years earlier. 1 year before Marcus and I met. On the back someone had written, Marcus and his son Daniel. I stared at Noah. Marcus has a son? Noah nodded. He always has. And suddenly, every lie about legacy, infertility and fatherhood became even darker. The photograph had faded around the edges. Marcus looked 23. Younger than Ava was now. He sat on the steps of a small house holding a newborn wrapped in a blue blanket. His smile was real. Not the polished smile from magazine covers. Not the calculated smile from the wedding stage. A young woman sat beside him. Who is she? I asked. Emily Carter, Noah replied. Marcus's girlfriend before you. Ava stood beside me. Her face had gone blank. Where is the child? Noah looked toward the ballroom doors. His name is Daniel. He's 23. Does Marcus see him? I asked. No. Why not? Noah exhaled. Because Daniel was born with a heart condition. I felt sick. Marcus had spent years talking about bloodlines. He had treated Ava like a temporary substitute because she was adopted. All while hiding a biological son. Noah continued. Marcus was terrified the condition was hereditary. After Daniel's second surgery, Marcus had genetic testing. And he carried the same mutation. The vasectomy was not because Marcus never wanted children. It was because he feared having another child with the condition. That fear by itself would not have made him cruel. Lying did. Instead of telling me the truth, Marcus had chosen to sterilize himself secretly. Then he allowed me to believe I was infertile. He avoided shame by transferring it to me. Why didn't you tell me? I asked Noah. I thought you knew about the procedure. What about Daniel? He lowered his eyes. Marcus told us you knew everything and wanted no contact with the child. Ava turned away. He said Mom rejected his son? Yes. Ava's voice broke. He made her look like the cruel one. Noah nodded. That was how Marcus kept people separated. Emily believed Claire wanted Daniel erased. Claire believed Marcus had no children. Daniel believed his father's new wife hated him. I closed my eyes. Marcus did not just lie. He built different versions of reality for everyone around him. Noah gave me Emily's number. She knows I came tonight. Why didn't she come? Daniel asked her not to. Does he know about the wedding? He knows everything. I looked at the photograph again. Why now? Noah hesitated. Because Marcus contacted Daniel 6 months ago. The same period when Marcus attempted the reversal. He wanted genetic samples, Noah continued. For what? The Ward family required health screening for the pregnancy trust. Sienna's grandfather had created a trust for future grandchildren. If Sienna had a biological child with her husband, control of a large block of hotel company shares would eventually pass to that household. Marcus needed proof that his future child would not carry a serious inherited condition. He had approached the son he abandoned not to apologize, but to use his medical history. Daniel refused. Marcus then offered him money. He offered his own son money for genetic records? Ava asked. $200,000. Did Daniel accept? No. That explained why Marcus tried to reverse the vasectomy. He wanted access to the Ward trust. He wanted a biological baby because the child came with shares. When the reversal failed, Sienna still became pregnant. Perhaps Marcus believed no one would question the timing. Perhaps he believed money could make biology irrelevant. Perhaps he planned to control the paternity results. After everything I had learned about him, no possibility seemed too extreme. Owen arranged private rooms for Sienna, Ava and me at the hotel attached to the venue. Marcus was escorted from the property. He called me 12 times before midnight. I answered the 13th. What do you want? His voice was low. You need to tell Owen this is a misunderstanding. Which part? North Crest. You forged my signature. The documents were prepared before the divorce. That does not make forgery legal. I had authority as your husband. No, you didn't. You benefited from the company. You pledged property belonging to my father's trust. He was silent. Then he said, if Owen withdraws the investment, hundreds of people could lose their jobs. There was the familiar strategy. Marcus created the danger. Then he handed the moral responsibility to someone else. Your employees did not forge my name, I said. You know how business works. I know exactly how your business works. His tone changed. Did Noah give you the photograph? I looked toward Ava, who was sitting near the window. Yes. You have no right to involve Daniel. You involved him first. That situation happened before you. Your lie lasted throughout our marriage. I was ashamed. The word almost stopped me. Marcus rarely admitted weakness. But shame was not an apology. It was an explanation he expected me to carry for him. You watched me undergo years of treatment, I said. I didn't know how to tell you. You could have started with the truth. You wanted a baby. So you let me believe my body was broken? I thought adoption would be enough. I looked at Ava. She heard him. Her face changed. Enough. I repeated. Marcus realized too late that the call was on speaker. Ava, that is not what I meant. She walked toward the phone. Then what did you mean? Ava. You said you were finally becoming a father. I was caught in the moment. You raised me for 18 years. I love you. You love me when no one is watching. Marcus tried to answer. Ava ended the call. Then she placed the phone on the table and began crying for the first time that night. I held her until she fell asleep. The following morning, Rachel arrived with 2 accountants and an investigator. We worked from a conference room while the wedding flowers were removed from the ballroom downstairs. Marcus had used 4 interconnected companies to move Owen's investment. $3.1 million went to construction costs. $900,000 covered old debts. $480,000 paid for the wedding, luxury vehicles and the honeymoon. Another $1.2 million had disappeared into a company called Legacy Health Holdings. The name meant nothing to me. Rachel searched the registration. The company had been formed 8 months earlier. Its listed manager was a physician named Dr. Elias Cross. Noah recognized him. He handled Marcus's reversal. My stomach tightened. Legacy Health had received money from North Crest. Then it paid 3 separate fertility clinics. One clinic was located near Sienna's apartment. Rachel looked at me. Do you think Marcus arranged the pregnancy? I don't know. Without her knowledge? I don't know what he's capable of anymore. Sienna entered the conference room before noon. She had changed out of her wedding dress. Without the makeup and veil, she looked younger. More frightened. Owen walked behind her. Sienna sat across from me. Did you really spend 5 years in fertility treatment? Yes. And he knew. Yes. She stared at her hands. He told me you refused to give him children because you cared more about work. I almost smiled at the precision of his cruelty. Marcus had taken my grief and rewritten it as selfishness. When did your relationship begin? I asked. 14 months before your divorce. I nodded. I had suspected 12. The extra 2 months hurt, but not in the way they once would have. Did Marcus arrange your fertility care? Rachel asked. Sienna looked confused. I wasn't receiving fertility care. Did you visit the Cross Wellness Clinic? Her face changed. Yes. Marcus said I needed a full health screening before our wedding. Were you given medication? Vitamins. Hormone support because my cycle was irregular. Rachel and I exchanged a look. Sienna's breathing became shallow. What are you saying? We are saying you need an independent physician, Rachel replied. Owen placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder. A private doctor examined Sienna that afternoon and requested records from Cross Wellness. The clinic initially refused. Owen's attorneys obtained an emergency order preserving the records. By evening we had the answer. Sienna had undergone an insemination procedure. She had signed a consent form for what she believed was a routine diagnostic treatment. The form had been altered after she signed it. The donor sample came from an anonymous bank. Marcus knew the child was not biologically his. He never intended anyone to discover that. Sienna stared at the medical documents. He did this to me. Owen's voice shook with anger. He used my daughter to create an heir. Marcus had built an entire marriage around a child selected to unlock a trust. He had lied to me about infertility. He had lied to Ava about fatherhood. He had abandoned Daniel because of illness. Then he tried to manufacture a healthy heir using another man's genetic material and his new wife's body. Not because he wanted a child. Because he wanted ownership. Sienna's attorney called the police. Rachel filed a fraud complaint concerning my forged signature. Owen froze the remaining North Crest funds. The hotel company terminated every agreement with Marcus. By sunset, his development company had no working capital. He arrived at the hotel just after 6. Security stopped him in the lobby. He demanded to see Sienna. She refused. He demanded to see Owen. Owen refused. Then he asked for me. I should have refused too. Instead, I went downstairs. Marcus stood behind a velvet barrier in yesterday's tuxedo. He had not changed. His bow tie hung loose around his neck. His eyes were bloodshot. You're enjoying this, he said. No. You always wanted me to fail. I wanted you to stop hurting people. You turned them against me. Noah brought the truth. You brought Owen the financial documents. Because you forged my name. You could have handled that privately. You planned to use the wedding to secure control of their family company. He stared at me. You don't know what I planned. I know you arranged Sienna's pregnancy. His expression changed. Only slightly. But enough. You cannot prove I knew what the clinic did. Your company paid the clinic. It was part of her wellness plan. You selected the donor. He looked away. I stepped closer to the barrier. Was the donor screened for your genetic condition? Silence. That was the answer. He had chosen a donor whose records showed no hereditary cardiac mutation. He wanted a healthy child to satisfy the trust. A child he could present as his own. Daniel was never the problem, I said. Marcus's eyes hardened. You know nothing about that. I know you abandoned a sick child because his existence reminded you that you were not perfect. You think I wasn't terrified? Fear did not force you to lie for 23 years. I was 23 when he was born. And 47 when you tried to buy his medical records. His face twisted. I was trying to protect my future. From your own son? Marcus looked past me toward the elevators. Let me speak to Sienna. No. You don't decide that. She already did. He lowered his voice. Claire, I have nothing. The sentence should have satisfied me. Once I had imagined the day Marcus would understand what he had done. But standing there I did not feel victorious. I felt free. You have exactly what you left everyone else with, I said. What? The truth after it became too late to change the outcome. Security escorted him outside. The following week, the paternity results confirmed what Marcus already knew. The baby was not his. But Sienna chose to continue the pregnancy. She said the child was innocent. For the first time I saw strength in her that had nothing to do with wealth. Then another result arrived. The investigation into Legacy Health revealed that the anonymous donor was not anonymous at all. The sample had come from Daniel, Marcus's hidden biological son. At first, none of us understood. Daniel had refused to give Marcus genetic records. He had refused money. He had refused contact. So how had his sample reached the clinic? The answer was inside an old medical file. Daniel had undergone fertility preservation before heart surgery at 19. A storage clinic kept several frozen samples. Marcus obtained access using a forged medical authorization. He transferred one sample to Cross Wellness. Marcus had not merely arranged a pregnancy. He had used his estranged son's genetic material without permission. The baby Sienna carried was biologically Daniel's. And Marcus planned to raise the child as his own. When Daniel learned the truth, he agreed to meet us. He arrived at Rachel's office wearing a dark jacket and carrying no photographs. He was 23, tall and thin with Marcus's eyes. That resemblance unsettled me. Ava sat beside me. Daniel looked at her first. You're Ava. She nodded. Our father kept both of us secret from each other. Daniel almost smiled. He told me you hated me. He told me you didn't exist. They sat in silence. Two children raised inside different versions of the same lie. Emily, Daniel's mother, came with him. She was 46, with tired eyes and a quiet manner. When she saw me, she began apologizing. I thought you knew. So did I said. She looked confused. I thought you knew about me. I didn't. Marcus said you refused to let Daniel near your family. He told me he had never had a child. Emily covered her mouth. For 22 years she believed I had rejected her son. For 22 years I believed Marcus and I shared the grief of infertility. Neither of us had been the enemy. Marcus needed us to believe we were. That was how he protected himself. Daniel placed a folder on Rachel's desk. Marcus contacted me before the wedding. Inside were messages. Marcus asked Daniel to sign a confidentiality agreement. He offered money. When Daniel refused, Marcus wrote, "You owe me the chance to repair what your birth destroyed." I read the sentence twice. Daniel's expression remained calm. I stopped answering after that. Ava's eyes filled with tears. Your birth didn't destroy anything. Daniel looked at her. I know that now. The criminal investigation expanded. Forgery, fraud, misuse of medical records, unauthorized transfer of reproductive material, financial deception. The list grew longer each week. Marcus's attorneys argued that the medical transfer had been an administrative error. The clinic director admitted Marcus provided the authorization. The signature was Daniel's. The email address belonged to Marcus. The payment came from Legacy Health. Marcus could not explain all three. Owen's company recovered most of the unspent investment. The estate Marcus bought for Sienna was sold before construction finished. The wedding venue sued for unpaid charges. North Crest Development entered bankruptcy. Several projects survived under new management. Marcus lost the office, the company cars, and the magazine profiles he had valued more than relationships. But the most important consequence happened away from court. Ava changed her surname. She had been Ava Hale since she was 2. 6 months after the wedding, she became Ava Monroe. She asked whether I minded. I told her it was her name to choose. Daniel did not immediately pursue a legal relationship with Sienna's baby. The situation was too painful and too complicated. But he met with Sienna. They agreed that the child would grow up knowing the truth. No invented father. No false history. No version designed to protect Marcus. Sienna named the baby Hope. I met her once when she was 3 months old. She had dark eyes and tiny fingers that closed around Ava's hand. Daniel stood nearby. He was still deciding what role he could emotionally manage. No one pressured him. The adults around Hope had already learned what happened when a child's life became someone else's plan. Owen asked me to help repair the financial damage Marcus caused. I declined a permanent role but agreed to serve as an independent advisor. Rachel insisted on a contract that gave me complete access to records and no responsibility for Marcus's previous decisions. "You've finally learned," she said. "Learned what?" "To stop cleaning up after men who call the mess a vision." He was right. My own company had survived the divorce because the Monroe Family Trust protected its designs and property. Marcus had taken management control of one development division, but the core firm remained mine. For years he told people he built it. After the wedding, clients started asking who had actually designed their projects. The answer was usually me. I did not need to destroy Marcus's reputation. I only stopped allowing him to use mine. 1 year after the failed wedding, I attended another ceremony. Ava graduated from university. Daniel and Emily sat 2 rows behind me. Sienna attended with baby Hope and Owen. Our arrangement would have looked impossible to anyone who knew only the surface. Marcus had tried to separate us through shame, secrecy, and competition. The truth created a family he could no longer control. Not a traditional family. Not a perfect one. But an honest one. Marcus was not invited. He sent Ava flowers. The card read, "I will always be your father." Ava stared at it for a long time. Then she removed the card and donated the flowers to a nursing home. She did not tear it up. She did not call him. She simply refused to let his words decide her feelings. The legal case ended 18 months after the wedding. Marcus accepted a plea agreement involving financial fraud and forged authorizations. Other medical claims continued separately. At sentencing, he asked to address the court. He said stress had affected his judgment. He said he wanted to protect his family. He said every decision came from fear. His attorney spoke about his charitable work and professional achievements. Then Marcus looked toward the gallery. I was sitting beside Ava. Daniel and Emily sat behind us. Sienna was not there. He looked at each of us as though he expected someone to confirm his version. No one did. The judge asked whether Marcus accepted responsibility. "Yes," he said. Then he added, "But no one understands the pressure I was under." The judge's expression did not change. That is not acceptance. For once, Marcus's ability to rewrite the story failed him. After the hearing, he asked to speak to me. Rachel stayed nearby. Marcus wore a plain suit. He looked older. Not destroyed. Just ordinary. "I heard Ava changed her name," he said. "Yes. You encouraged that." "No. She would not have done it without you. She did it because of you." He looked toward Daniel. "Is he trying to take my place? You never gave him a place in your life. He hates me. He barely knows you." Marcus lowered his voice. "I was afraid of the heart condition." "I know. I watched Daniel go through surgeries. I couldn't do that again. You could have told me. You would have looked at me differently. I look at you differently now." His eyes closed briefly. "I loved you, Claire. You loved being admired. That is not fair. You allowed me to believe I was infertile because the truth made you feel vulnerable. I didn't know how to explain Daniel. You could have said, 'I have a son.' It wasn't that simple." The first sentence was. He looked away. For years, Marcus had treated honesty like a complicated luxury. But lies had required clinics, shell companies, forged documents, secret payments, and separate families. The truth would have required one conversation. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "Nothing. Not even an apology?" I stopped building my peace around words you might never mean. His face tightened. "Do you think I'm evil?" "No." That surprised him. "I think you were afraid, ashamed, and selfish. Then you made other people pay for those feelings until your choices became cruel." He swallowed. "That sounds worse. It is more honest." I walked away. 2 years after the wedding, I returned to the same hotel ballroom. Not for another ceremony. The Ward Foundation had converted part of the venue into a center supporting children with congenital heart conditions and families navigating medical treatment. Daniel helped design the patient advisory program. Emily managed family outreach. Sienna funded legal support for people affected by medical consent fraud. Ava created the center's visual identity. I supervised the renovation. We named it the Hope Center. Not after the baby alone. After the possibility that truth could create something better than the plans built from lies. On opening night, Noah stood near the back of the ballroom. I walked over to him. You changed everything when you stood up. He shook his head. Marcus changed everything. I just stopped helping him hide it. Why did you come? He sent me an invitation to prove he had won. Noah looked around the restored room. He never understood that winning is not the same as being surrounded by people who don't know the truth. Across the ballroom, Ava laughed with Daniel. Sienna held Hope near the windows. Emily spoke to a family whose newborn was scheduled for surgery. No one's life had followed the plan they expected. But everyone in that room knew who they were to one another. That mattered more than perfection. At my ex-husband's wedding, a guest stood up and asked, "You never told her?" At first, I thought the secret was a vasectomy. Then I thought it was a hidden son. Then a forged investment. Then a manipulated pregnancy. But the real secret was simpler. Marcus had never told any of us the same story. He survived by giving each person a different version of the truth and keeping us far enough apart that we could not compare them. The moment we entered the same room, his entire life began to collapse. Not because we planned revenge. Because lies built in isolation cannot survive connection. And sometimes the most powerful final move is not exposing someone with a dramatic speech. It is standing beside the people they tried to turn against you, and finally allowing everyone to speak. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. What would you have done when Noah stood up and asked, "You never told her?" Would you have confronted Marcus immediately, or stayed long enough to discover every secret? Subscribe to Her Final Move for more fictional stories about betrayal, hidden truths, intelligent revenge, and women who reclaim their lives.